Ever felt frustrated being told PMS, heavy bleeding, and cramping are just normal parts of life? You are not alone. I loathed my monthly cycle for decades. That all changed when I earned 3 health coaching certifications, discovering something incredible. Your period is vital. It is an outward sign of your inner health, and it holds the key to unlocking your full potential. I've been there battling heavy, painful periods, and I turn them into cycles with minimal PMS and cramping. Today, I'm on a mission to share that information with you. Pour a cup of your favorite drink, get comfy, and grab your headphones as we embark on a candid and empowering journey of self-discovery. Together, we'll demystify menstrual cycles, explore cyclical living, delve into natural birth control, and guide parents through those crucial period talks with tweens and teens. It's time to break the taboo around menstruation and embrace the wisdom it holds. I'm your host, Heather Almendinger, and this is the Embracing Flow podcast. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on Embracing Flow. I'd like to introduce our guest today, an expert at Embracing Flow, Ashley Rocha. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. Listeners, here is why Ashley has been invited to Embracing Flow. She's the founder of Ladywell, a hormonal health supplement brand for women that gives women the tools to care for their hormones and well-being. Ladywell was created to make hormonal health solutions easily accessible to women and close the knowledge gap around hormonal health. With a culture hyper-focused on quick symptom relief, Ladywell aims to treat the root cause and reestablish what it feels like to have a normal cycle. I love that you have gone and done this. Before we get into how you came up with Ladywell, would you be open to sharing one of your cycle stories, and about what age did you start cycling?
Yeah, so I feel like I developed later on in life compared to my friends, which I think developing on the early side is traumatic, and then developing on the later side is also traumatic. Like there's just like you want to be right in the middle for it to like really be the perfect time. But yeah, I had like my boobs developed later. I had my period later, so I was more in the I can't exactly remember what age, but it was more early high school. As my friends were like, I even had a friend who started like fifth grade, but elementary school, but usually like, middle school was the time. So I think that alone was just hard for me because I felt like I was behind in that way. And then my first period story, like I got my first period at school, and I happened to be wearing a white skirt that day, just like probably the worst case scenario of the outfit choice to go along with that. And you don't identify the feelings of having your period. And so of course I ended up with blood all over the back of the skirt and had no idea, and had one of the boys in my class pointed out. And so that has always stuck with me as a very traumatic life experience, but luckily I've gotten over it.
I feel the pain. I've had accidents where I went from dark blue pants into white sweatpants, and that trauma of being, okay, am I going to bleed through? So kind of have that traumatic experience, not exactly the same, but it's understand that one. Thank you so much for sharing that. When we first connected and we first met, you shared that you had a very common journey or common condition, had a common condition that a lot of us have, called premenstrual dysphoric disorder. Would you share your journey on how you found out you had that, and how you've gone and kind of remedied it, and got it to the point where it's necessarily not there, and then how Ladywell kind of came into all that as well? I know a lot of questions right then and there.
Yeah, no problem. I'll tell you my journey. So the moment I went through puberty, I started having bad PMS, like intense PMS. And like, I think that's when the PMDD began. So I think it's very common for teenagers to have like, you're going through puberty, you have these emotional like mood swings and just like ups and downs. So that was very much what I had, like just very extreme mood swings, really painful periods. And it never lessened through my entire life. So I had I had that for 2 decades. So the difference between PMS and PMDD is PMS is, the common physical symptoms that you have breast tenderness, cramps, cravings. Like there's also emotional things like mood swings tied to it, but PMDD is the intensity of the mood swings and the psychological factors like depression. Those things are just intensified significantly. So if you're somebody who identifies as having PMS, but also like just like crazy intense mood swings, you get really angry, you get really sad, you almost have depression for 1 week a month, that can be PMDD. And so that's what I had for like 2 decades up until my mid 30s when I really kind of addressed the issue. But during that time, I would go to the doctor, I would ask them, what can you do for my like serious pain that I have once a month, or my anxiety and depression that kicked in for that 1 week a month. And what they would do is prescribe hormonal birth control and then SSRIs, which are antidepressants. And I knew I didn't want or need antidepressants because like after like my luteal phase, after that 1 week before my period, when I got my period, all those symptoms would disappear. And so then I totally forgot about them. Like, I was like, oh, I'm back to normal. Life goes on until the next cycle. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, what happened? Like it just continuously snuck up on me. And I was always shocked and surprised, which is so funny looking back. It's like how I didn't identify like a pattern and do something about it earlier is beyond me. But when you're young, like it's easy to just like look at what's in front of you and move on. And so I never really had anything that helped me. Like I was having such painful periods that my doctor was just telling me to take more Advil, more Advil. So I was taking 20 Advil a day at some point. And it was just, that's so bad for your gut health. Like once again, it's like masking the symptoms, not treating the root cause. And I never treated the root cause until I was in my early 30s and I wanted to try to start to have kids. And I wasn't getting pregnant as easily as I wanted to. And, at that point I was like, okay, I know that there's something going on with my hormones. Like my hormonal like roller coaster has been impacting my relationships, my career, every aspect of my life for so long. And I need to fix it and take it into my own hands because I definitely want to have kids. So it's all connected. And that's the time when I was also studying herbalism for a while. And so I was like, okay, well, I've been creating like skincare stuff for myself with herbs, but I never really think about my hormones. And so I started looking into my studies into the plant world to solve these issues for me. And I also started seeing as a naturopathic doctor and a functional medicine doctor. And with those resources, I was able to find herbs and mushrooms and things that I created like, individual formula for myself that really worked significantly to remedy my PMDD. So I like over time, like within 6 months, like I wasn't having that intense emotional roller coaster that I've been having my whole life. And eventually, like within a year, I got pregnant and I have 2 babies now. And so that journey of like just fixing my own health is why I created Ladywell, because I created that formula for myself. But then I have friends, who also have like these hormonal imbalance symptoms. And so I give it to them and it helped them greatly. And I just knew that so many women are suffering and there wasn't enough resources. There's not enough knowledge out there. Hormonal health is really I think a new topic that we talk about more these days. Like, 10 years ago, like nobody talked about hormones and it was even looked down upon, like to discuss your period, your hormones, like that just wasn't a thing. Luckily, we're here today where we're having this conversation. This podcast exists. Like the women that are growing or the girls that are growing up today, like I'm so grateful that they have resources that we didn't have or I didn't have growing up. But that's why I created labels, because I wanted women to have those resources and just grow this conversation like even bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it's just like normal hormone care is just part of everyday life, because your hormones control everything in your body. It impacts your mental, your physical, your relationships, like everything is impacted by your hormones. So it's something that we really should be considering every day.
I agree. And I let people know when I talk to them that our reproductive health is connected, or our reproductive system is connected to the 10 other systems in our body. It's not a standalone system, that whatever's going on with our reproductive system and how our periods manifest themselves is an indication that something else is going on. If periods are to be pain-free and minimally with PMS, if we're not having that PMS free luteal phase, or if we're experiencing a PMS in significant mild to moderate, if not PMDD, and we're having those heavy, painful periods, our body's telling us something. There's
Yeah.
something going on. So I love that you've connected that. I love that you've used your knowledge of herbs and your connections with the naturopathic and functional medicine doctors and came up with a way to help us align those hormones.
Yeah.
What are some of the, you mentioned about PMDD and the supplement that you have for that you started using for that. Are there other symptoms or other PMS issues or hormonal imbalances that Ladywell can help with besides the PMDD?
Yeah, so when I started Ladywell, I really wanted to create targeted solutions for every stage of the hormonal health journey, because whether we like it or not, we're on the journey from, puberty to menopause. And then, after menopause, we still need to take care of our health, even though our hormones are firing less. So within every stage, we have puberty, then we have the reproductive years. So fertility, I have a targeted fertility and egg health supplement that helps boost fertility and helps improve your egg health. So it improves your chances of getting pregnant and carrying a healthy pregnancy when that time comes. I have a prenatal. I have my daily hormone balance, which addresses PCOS, PMDD, PMS. And then I have a perimenopause formula. So for when you're coming out of those years, and perimenopause can start like as early as your 30s or mid 30s, and typically it's in your 40s. So I wanted to be there for every stage of a woman's journey. I think that's really important. And then I have a magnesium supplement too, which is like just amazing for everybody, even men, but like anybody will benefit from magnesium. So both stages. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the deer in the headlight looks when I ask, I have a sign that says the different symptoms of magnesium deficiency. And then the next question, they're like, "Oh, I take magnesium." I ask them, "Well, what kind? What's the combination of magnesium that is being taken?" And they look at me kind of funny, like, "Well, what do you mean it's magnesium?" And then I was like, "Well, is it magnesium stearate? Is it glycinate? Is it citrate?" And they're like, "Well, I don't know." I was like, "Because different kinds of magnesium help with different types of conditions."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's the thing about the supplement world. It's complicated and there's so much information. I was just saying with my journey, like there was no information. So like we've kind of done a 180, like there's so much information with the emergence of social media and just like there's just so many brands out there creating things. It's really hard to know what's right and how to decipher it. And it's confusing. It's definitely confusing for everybody today.
It is, and that's why I'm very happy that we have resources such as yourself, and I help with individuals with theirs to find out, to give them more information so they can make the best informed decisions for themselves.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it's when you're shopping for supplements, it's the supplement industry is like the wild, wild west out there. Like anybody really can create a supplement if they have the resources and they have like a little bit of knowledge. And a lot of them, like if you go on Amazon, like you don't really know what you're buying. If they're coming from overseas, like a lot of Chinese brands like put their supplements on Amazon, and you just don't know the safety with those, like if they're tested and the efficacy. So when you're shopping for supplements, it's really important to think of look at the brand that you're buying from and making sure that they check a lot of the boxes that matter and matter to you. But mainly I would look at if they're clean and tested. So are they third party tested, which means that they are tested by a lab outside of the brand. So like somebody who has no stake in the business, it tells you exactly what is in the bottle, what they're saying is in the bottle is in the bottle. So there's efficacy and then safety. So there's no molds, toxins. You want to make sure all those things are checked off. Within our production process, it's basically triple checked. So the ingredients that were sourced from those manufacturers or the vendors have to provide testing on the actual physical ingredients, the raw ingredients first, and then we test during our production run, and then we do third party testing. So like it's triple checked, which the most important thing to me is that you're not putting more toxins or endocrine disruptors into your body that like you're trying to remove these things and like create less problems. You don't want to be adding more problems. So when you're taking supplements, you really want to make sure that like you're going to be doing more good than harm in that regard. And then buying things like supplements in glass bottles, like we kind of like are so used to everything being in plastic, but plastic does leach into your foods and all your supplements. So like it's really almost impossible to avoid plastic completely. But when you do have control over it, like buying like a supplement in a glass jar, like I highly recommend just doing that for as much as you can. And then looking at like founder stories, like with me, like with Ladywell, obviously there's a person behind the brand. I created the brand. So, there's a reason it exists, and it is a heart and soul to a brand. A lot of these brands, like you can tell that they're holding companies and they're maybe not as invested in the product and the story. And, they might just be trying to make more money. Like, so I think there's a lot of things you can look at when you're shopping for supplements.
I agree. You had mentioned endocrine disruptors.
Mm-hmm.
For those that don't understand what those are, would you be open to explaining kind of general terms on what endocrine disruptors are and where they can be found? Because I know where they can be found, but they don't always want to hear from me.
Yeah, so endocrine disruptors are chemicals that can interfere with the body's hormones, which are responsible for many biological processes, of course. So, and they can be found in like so many everyday products, like your cosmetics, food and beverage packaging, toys, which is unfortunate, carpets, pesticides, personal care, cleaning products, diapers, like baby wipes. So they really can be in anything. And what they do is they mimic, block, or interfere with hormones in a number of ways. They act like hormones and mimic hormones, blocking natural hormones and increasing or decreasing levels in the blood and changing how sensitive the body is to hormones. And so the outcome of this is there's a wide range of health issues that can happen, including altered sperm quality and fertility. So that's, extremely important right now. We're talking about reproductive health. This endocrine disruptors can significantly impact your fertility. Endometriosis, so that's another common thing that can happen with a lot of endocrine disruptors, early puberty. So we see this a lot, like women or little girls are having their periods a lot earlier these days. So that's once again tied to that. And then there's like cancer, immune problems, respiratory problems, diabetes, things like that. And then ways that you can avoid it is eat organic food. So you can stay away from pesticides. Once again, like how you store or buy your food in the containers. So plastics are really bad. They leach into your food. Like plastic water bottles, like we're so used to using plastic water bottles and just soda bottles or whatever. But the thing is, if the water is sitting in the bottle and that's heated from the sun and then like the temperature changes, that's when the toxins get released. And you don't have any control over that because it's being shipped across the country. And like there's a very high chance that like the temperature is changing in the water bottle's lifespan. So we're constantly getting all these microplastics in our body. And there's just been, I think in the last like few weeks, I've just seen an emergence of news articles about how people in their 30s are having colon cancer and all these new cancers because of they're associated with microplastics. So they're just everywhere. We can, avoid plastic packaging. We can cook in stainless steel or cast iron instead of nonstick. Like don't use nonstick pans, don't use plastic cutting boards, use wood, like use wood spatulas or like, wood spoons and stuff like that. And then just make sure that all your personal care products, like your sunscreens, your face lotions, your body lotions, your shampoos have minimal chemicals as possible. And I think a good way to shop is at places like Credo Beauty, where they have already vetted the product. So like you don't have to really worry about it as much. It just makes it easier. And then there's EWG, which is a guide on the internet that you can go, and if you have a product, you can literally like type the product's name into that website and it'll tell you its rating. So if it's rated safe, it'll tell you that, or if it's like a red flag warning, like then you should probably throw it away. So I think that's a really helpful resource for people if they already have stuff in their house or products they love to use. Like you can see how it's rated and adjust your lifestyle in that way.
Yep. I recently have gone through and got rid of some of my body lotions because I was like, yeah. Mm-mm.
I know. And then candles are like my status throwaway item because I used to burn them every night, like for like my whole life. And it was just kind of like part of my evening ritual. And then I just I've learned over the years that artificial fragrances are super bad for you. So, I mean, a majority of candles do have those bad fragrances in them. So I just decided it was better just to not have that in my house. And like, you also want to use like unscented, like laundry detergents and, soaps and stuff like that. So we're still like used to using like beautiful scents that are artificial, but we have to replace them with more natural scents if we can.
Yeah, I actually switched over to essential oils, diffusing
Yeah.
essential oils, because
Yeah.
I feel better. My
Yeah.
I wasn't diagnosed with PMDD, but I had very similar to what you went through with the mood swings and the anxiety and thinking I was going to get fired every single month, that people hated me.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked into improving my lifestyle, getting rid of the fragrances. Actually I found out baking soda I can't use in deodorant. It
Hmm.
irritates my underarm.
Yeah.
Magnesium I can't use under my arms. So I've actually went to a deodorant that doesn't have a fragrance, and it's just a deodorant. It's not an antiperspirant.
Yeah.
And I've had pain-free cycles since.
I just
Getting
stopped
rid of
using
some of that
deodorant
stuff.
altogether. So
Do you use
sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's fine.
do you use a crystal, or do you use nothing at all?
I just use nothing at all. I never really had body odor my whole entire life, really, up until I got pregnant and then my hormones changed. And now I definitely smell sometimes, but I'd just rather not not deal with any of the problems that comes along. Because I've tried natural deodorants, of course, and some work and some don't. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I tried it with I haven't made any with arrowroot yet, but it's for the longest time I was making it was just shea butter, beeswax, coconut oil, essential oils, and it worked fine until it didn't.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, I was like, oh, okay. And I was at an event with a bunch of other ladies, and I was just like, oh, okay, very interesting.
I
Okay.
feel like sometimes you can smell yourself worse than most people around you, like in your head, maybe. I hope. I don't know.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
banking on for this.
I haven't had anybody tell me, Heather, you need to. It was more like, all right, I need to go use the restroom and kind of clean up a little bit here to
Yeah.
release some of this, rid of some of this bacteria, because we both know that's the bacteria that causes that
Hmm.
smell.
Yep.
Oh, at least that's what Lumi says. I don't know. I'm guessing that's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. With What are some of the symptoms? You mentioned a little bit of the endometriosis. Do you know of any symptoms that may suggest possibly PCOS or anything like that you've come across in your journey with your PMDD or in your journey with making your supplements? So that way, if somebody's having some
Hmm.
issues, they may have an idea on, okay, so they go into your website and go, oh, this is what she was talking about that may help me reduce the symptoms for their PCOS or their endometriosis, or helping with their fertility.
Yeah. So PCOS is a little bit different. Well, not a little bit. It's a lot different than PMDD. So, but I mean, there'll be some similar overlap, but the difference is like you will see symptoms of irregular menstrual cycle and excessive body and facial hair. You'll have acne, weight gain. There's like a PCOS belly type of thing, and then reduced fertility. So a lot of women with PCOS can struggle to get pregnant. It might take a little bit longer than people without it. And PCOS isn't necessarily something that's easy to get rid of. You have to just manage your symptoms. And so you can take herbs, and that's part of the formulas that we created. Herbs that help you manage those symptoms, like help you have more regular periods, help you manage just like all the symptoms I just mentioned. Ashwagandha is a great one. Ashwagandha is in my supplement. It's called the Indian ginseng. So it's really good for a lot of people benefit from ashwagandha, but it's really good for people with PCOS because it helps improve stress and the symptoms associated with the PCOS. And then there's things like turkey tail mushroom, which is also an adaptogen. And that one really helps too with the symptoms and this like the emotional and physical symptoms with PCOS. So I think people with PCOS, it's like, as I said, it's not something that you can just take supplements and get rid of PCOS. It's something that you should definitely see your doctor about. It can interrupt people's lives significantly. So it's about managing those symptoms. And it's something that you might have to live with. You probably do have to live with it for your life. So it's about managing those symptoms. And then especially if you want to get pregnant, you should think about planning ahead. So you don't want to wait until you're 39, like, okay, well, now I want to get pregnant, like, let's go. Just like start thinking about it ahead, prepare your body for trying to get pregnant. Like, this is where my fertility and egg health supplement comes in. Like, I recommend taking things like that far you want to start trying to conceive. And you also want to take a prenatal, like, so getting your body ready for that time of your life prior to that, when you know you have PCOS. Yeah.
I agree. It's prepping when you're coming off hormonal birth control, support your body as you go into whatever journey you decide to go on, because our bodies need that support. Is there anything you would like to share that we haven't discussed? Because I know that you have a vast amount of knowledge.
Yeah, I would say a big piece of this is I'm talking about supplements. I have a supplement company, of course. I believe greatly in how they can impact your health, but you have to look at your life in 360. So you have to look at your diet, your exercise, stress levels, like your sleep quality. And then I think the most powerful tool that we can have as women is cycle tracking. So start tracking your cycle every month. You'll know when you're in the first, you'll know the stages that you're in. So you'll know when you're ovulate, you'll know when your luteal phase, which for me was the most important thing, is understanding when I was moving into the phase where I would start having PMDD or my PMS symptoms. And that was the most powerful thing that I ever gained in this journey, because knowing where I was in my cycle gave me so much power to be kinder to myself, to acknowledge like, oh, wait, maybe like I'm getting mad because I'm PMSing, like I'll wait to send that email in a week, like not right now. Like I don't need to fire off an email. Like, so it gave me like a little bit more insight onto myself and helped me plan my days better, help me communicate better with my partner. And then I think like if you have that knowledge, if you know like, okay, I'm going to be PMSing, like you can even empower your partners with that knowledge. So it helps them be kinder to you, or just so they don't react, might avoid conflict. Yeah. And then I think another piece of it was just the shame, I think, that comes with PMS and PMDD. And like, you just feel so bad, like after, like, oh my God, I was so emotional, like that week, and you just feel shameful about it. And I think, once again, cycle tracking kind of helps remove a little bit of that. And then also just like alleviating that from your life. Like, I think we're just told that these hormonal fluctuations are bad things, and like we all just need to be perfect all the time. And yes, I think women should have painless or minimally pained periods, but there's always going to be like a fluctuation in our cycle. Like that's just who we are. So there's going to be times when we're tired. At the beginning of our cycle, we're going to be more energetic, more creative. So I think embracing those different feelings that we have through our period are really powerful. And once you track your cycle and know where you're at, then you'll be able to do that more. And that's advice I would give people who don't track their cycle, is just start doing it. There's so many apps out there that make it so easy and educational and fun. So and I think once people start doing it, it kind of gets exciting, and you're like, well, you can plan around your periods too, which is pretty awesome.
That you can. That was one of the things that I found the most interesting and life altering when I went into tracking cycles and learning about cyclical living, is we can plan our weeks and month and year in flow with our cycle, because our energy, whether we're bleeding or not, changes throughout what our cycle is.
Yep, exactly.
Where can individuals find more about you, more about your supplements, more about the juicy stuff that you share on a regular basis?
Yeah, so you can find me at my website at getladywell.com. That's where we sell our supplements. And we also have a really great blog full of tons of resources. And then we also are on social media at Get Ladywell is our handle on TikTok and on Instagram. And we try to post educational videos there to help, once again, like spread the knowledge. And then if you want to buy our supplements, we have 20% off for your listeners, and the code's Heather20. So yeah, we're so excited and happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. Before we go, do you have any wise words of wisdom? You gave us so much so far today. Any additional wise words of wisdom for us to take with us?
Yeah, let me think. I would just say embrace being a woman and don't push against it, because society has told us like being a woman is, you gotta act in a certain way. But I think embracing, once again, as I was saying, the flow, the different stages we go through during our cycles, during our lives, once you get to perimenopause, it's gonna be a whole different journey for a woman, and just embracing that time, even though it comes with struggles, but seeing the good stuff in each phase, I think is really important.
Those are amazing words of wisdom for us to end on. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us today and taking us on this enlightening journey into your story, your journey, and Ladywell supplements.
Yeah.
All of the links that Ashley shared with us can be found in the show notes. Thank you, listeners, for spending your time with us today. If you found a nugget of wisdom or a moment of empowerment, our mission is accomplished. Do you know someone who could benefit from this information? Please share Embracing Flow with them. Until next time, listeners, love hard, laugh often, and as always, be vividous. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show, submit a rating and review, and share it with your friends. Visit my website, embracingflowpodcast.com, to receive your free guide on 4 ways to decrease PMS. The link is in the show notes. Information shared on the Embracing Flow podcast is for educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. Until next time, love hard, laugh often, and always be vividous.